Arc 6, Chapter 46, Meili Portroute, staring at the binding of the book. As Emilia said that, Subaru became shocked. His eyes shot open. He glared at the binding of the book. The letters written there, Subaru couldn't read them at all. However, here now, there is no reason for Subaru to put on a pretext and think that Emilia was shaking without meaning. Then why was there a Book of the Dead with Meili's name in the title? There was no room to doubt this fact. Subaru. He still couldn't talk. Subaru, with stiff cheeks, had his back break out in a cold sweat. Inside his skull, his brain was desperately screaming one thing and one thing only. Why? Why is there a book with Meili's name here? Why did this library that kept records of the dead have the girl's book ready that quickly? Why is it that in a library this vast that they found Meili's book so easily? Why was it that the moment Subaru felt like he could trust Emilia out of everyone in the tower, this had to happen? Why was it that fate just couldn't forgive Natsuki Subaru? Why, Emilia, Beatrice, did you check the contents of the book? Subaru, hic. While forcing himself to bury the incredible amount of whys in his head, those words rung awfully clearly inside of his eardrums. Raising his face in a snap, Emilia was the one who probed Beatrice. She asked Beatrice whilst continuing to lay against the bookshelf, glaring at the book in question. As far as Subaru had heard about the books of the dead found in this library, if you are acquainted with the person in the book and touch it, then the memories of their life will pour into their head. Though it's a magical book with unwavering powers, it is not the fantasy tone part of the story that becomes a problem in this place. It's a more realistic problem. Looking at the records of Meili's life means that they will supposedly see the records of her last moments. In other words, all that they will see who it was that strangled her. Subaru had killed Meili with his own 2 hands in these circumstances. He does not doubt that it was Natsuki Subaru that had carried it out. But it's only Subaru who can come to that distinction. The memories act sort of like video footage, such as the ones you could get from crime prevention cameras around potential crime scenes. He won't be able to expect them to follow such a distinction. In addition, Subaru in this loop had concealed his memory loss from Emilia and the others. Subaru's crime would become clear to them from the memories, and it very much would reach the stage where it would reveal his memory loss. If the others had acted ad hoc already, then it would only sound like a bad excuse. Naturally, Emilia and the others seemed to be on the same level as Subaru. But if Beatrice had anticipated this and had already referred to the memory about Meili's death, Beatrice, I haven't checked yet, I suppose. Subaru, hic, oh, is that so? Beatrice, it's natural that I didn't, in fact. I have no choice but to handle it carefully, I suppose. In fact, to begin with, we don't even know whether this Meili's book is about the one we know. If it really is that girl's book, Emilia, Meili's inside this tower, oh no. We have to look for her right away. Her complexion changing, Emilia tries to break off into a run at hearing Beatrice's words. However, Beatrice cuts in front of Emilia and shakes her head. Beatrice, wait, I suppose. If it really is that girl's book, then searching for her all in a hurry is meaningless, in fact. You know what happens when a book is added here, I suppose. Emilia. So because of that, Ram went searching for us and Julius group. Beatrice, if in the middle of this, Meili waltzes in looking all innocent, then you can take this as being Betty's childish misunderstanding. Emilia's strength steadily drains out of her as she listens to Beatrice calmly pointing these facts out. Still, with a fretful look across her pale face, Emilia clasps her hands against her chest, as if she was praying. She hopes that the book that had come from the bookshelf was not Meili's one. She clings onto the hope that it belongs to someone who had happened to have the same name as her. But Natsuki Subaru knows that hope will never come true. Subaru was frantically turning his head back and forth between Emilia and Beatrice as they spoke. His thoughts were spinning around in circles. For the most part, he was thinking on how to get out of this situation and whether to keep the truth only to himself. As he had simulated before, he can't let Emilia and the others see Meili's memories. It was a stroke of good luck that Beatrice hadn't seen them. Even so, it was only a matter of time until one of them would. It's a fact that Meili is dead. She will never appear in this library again looking all innocent. So of course, they will eventually get a chance to check the Book of the Dead. Before long, they would do it. If they look at the book, everyone will accuse Subaru. Then, should he do something like disposing of Meili's book? No, he wants to avoid that. It's true that this situation was exceedingly difficult, however. Subaru's feelings had become more problematic. Subaru also has a great interest in the contents of the book. Subaru currently believes with certainty that it was Natsuki Subaru who had killed Meili. If he were to look through Meili's records, he may be able to see Natsuki Subaru there. He could conceivably look at the literal form of the potential enemy that was lying inside him. If that was possible, Subaru's situation would change drastically. At least, he should be able to come up with a resolution. Hence, he cannot let Emilia or anyone else read the contents of the book. Subaru must be the only one to experience the book's contents. Shala, now this is what you call a commotion. Did something happen? Emilia. Ah, Shala, you've come. In the meanwhile, Shala had showed up at the Tappei library. Craning her neck, her black hair swinging about, Shala greets Emilia and Beatrice. She then notices Subaru at the back of the library and waves her hand at him. In this moment, he thinks that her appearance overlaps with how Meili had entered the breakfast room this morning. Subaru turns his face away and resists the urge to vomit. Shala. Oyo, what a cold response from Master. After spending such a passionate time together with me. Beatrice. I am quite interested in what happened between you and Subaru, but for now I will postpone it, I suppose. Speak up if you've seen Meili anywhere. You were good friends with her, I suppose. Shala, the Chibiko, number 2, won her. Now that you mention it, I haven't seen her for a while. I don't know what happened to her after this morning's breakfast. Shala answered Beatrice by shaking both of her hands. Then she placed her waving hands against her cheeks, and cocking her head she said, "What's wrong with number 2? At hearing Shala's question, Emilia cast her gaze down in unease. Emilia, to tell you the truth, we found a book with Meili's name in the library. We haven't looked inside it yet. Before doing that, we wanted to check whether that child was okay. Shala. Ah, I see. Number 2 ended up dying. That's troublesome to think about. There are many ways you can die. Things like that may just happen, new. Emilia, hic Beatrice. You, looking quite indifferent to what was going on around her. Shala states her opinion on the matters of life and death, paying zero consideration towards the distressed Emilia. Hearing what Shala had said, Emilia's cheeks stiffened, and Beatrice glared at Shala with an expression of anger. However, Shala did not pay any attention to how the two had reacted. Shala, so where is this important buwak? Once you look inside, you may find out how and where number 2 died indeed. Subaru, that's enough from you, always talking like this. Subaru was unable to look on without doing anything. He flares up at Shala's reckless remarks. Now Shala's behavior showed heartlessness too. Up until now, by no means could Subaru tell Emilia his thoughts. He has just about enough discretion to not open his mouth. As for Shala, she has no Shala. Don't get mad, Master. I didn't mean any offense. But practically the book is here, so shouldn't we do that? Subaru, at least, after we all get together. Shala. Even if you don't do it leisurely, is it not worth a shot to read the buwak? If it's about number 1's worries of not knowing what'll happen after reading it, then. Subaru falters. The strength of his rebuttal weakens as Shala presses for an answer from him. She cuts off her speech and quietly sends Beatrice a sidelong glance, and then once again she cast her gaze at Subaru. Her face continued to have an unreserved but not malicious look on it. Shala, Master should read the book. Subaru? Shala, when you first saw this library, it was Master and that other pretty Boitwo who first experienced what was in it, no. Afterwards, there were no negative effects coming out, right? Her ample-sized breasts shaking, Shala takes a step forward and brings her face right next to his. His breath was taken away by the woman's suggestion, and Subaru's brain started to once again think carefully. Shala's suggestion is extremely reasonable for a woman that has such an attitude. Naturally, it's not known to him what sort of effect the books of the dead have on people once you read it. At least, there had been 2 people who had already experienced it. There should be enough value in trying to read it. Of course, it was entirely possible that this experience of Subaru's had snatched away his memories. triggering the separation between Natsuki Subaru and his current self. If that really was the case here, it would be odd that Julius had not experienced any of these unusual phenomena. By no means would he conceal his memory loss like Subaru had done. It was a great leap of imagination to come to such a suspicion. There is no relation between the influence of the books of the dead and his loss of memories. Making this conclusion was no issue at all in this situation. Thus, with that being the case, her suggestion had come as a lifesaver. Subaru. Certainly, what Shala said may have a grain of truth in it. Beatrice. Subaru, are you really going to do it, in fact? Up until this time you shared meals with that companion, I suppose. If he were to take advantage of Shala's words, for the time being, he could break through the first obstacle, becoming the first one to read Meili's Book of the Dead, and making sure he is the last and only one to read it. Then what Subaru had done would remain hidden inside his mind. However, that is where Beatrice's genuine worry for him entered into the fold. She is concerned about Subaru's soul being damaged. Until now, the dead that Natsuki Subaru had seen here had only had a shallow relationship to him. There was a big difference between that and Meili. They had journeyed together, they had talked to each other, they had shared meals with each other. She was that kind of comrade in arms. Beatrice had been concerned about what sort of mental trauma would befall Subaru if he were to see her death with his own eyes. Subaru, I'll be fine, don't worry. As Shala said, I am most likely the best person to do it. To Beatrice's concerns, Subaru straightens his cheeks so that he looks serious and nods. Certainly, looking at the memories of a deceased person whose face you know could very likely cause someone to have mental trauma or abnormalities. If you happen to be a good person, then maybe it would be unbearable. But that's not the case with him. It isn't so. For Subaru now, the journey with Meili, the words he had exchanged with her, the meals he had shared together with her, by no means was she that kind of comrade in arms to him. For these few hours, he had behaved as if was acquainted with her. They had shared 2 or 3 meals together, and sometimes she had helped him reassure him a bit, but that was the extent of their relations. She was just an unfamiliar little girl to him. He would not receive any mental trauma by seeing her death. Emilia, I am still against this. If we really have to, then it shouldn't be Subaru, but me. Beatrice, if Emilia wants to look at it, Betty will oppose it, in fact. If someone has to look at it, it's frustrating, but Julius or Subaru are our best bets for it, I suppose. But if you had seen how Julius looked like this morning, you'd probably want to erase him from the list of candidates here. Emilia, Beatrice, Emilia, who looks quite dispirited, trails off into silence at hearing Beatrice's reasoning. At least, Beatrice seems to have chosen to respect Subaru's will. However, due to what had happened just before, Emilia knows that Subaru's condition is quite unstable. Therefore, Subaru nodded at Emilia, whose amethyst eyes showed deep concern that did not disappear. Subaru, I will look. Perhaps, what if it's only a misunderstanding, and if you read it in high spirits then maybe nothing will happen. Emilia, if anything happens, I will tear the book from you at once. I'll pull your hair as well. Subaru, I would prefer much more if you'd call out to me and shake my shoulders instead. With Emilia's superhuman strength, if she were to pull his hair, the back of Subaru's head would become a permanent desolate wasteland. And then, after retorting with such false words, Subaru faces towards the bookshelf. Unchanging, Meili's book was still there, emitting a strange presence. From the beginning, at the times he had happened to catch a glimpse of it, he had seen it as just an ordinary plain book. But now, from this strange aura the book had, it felt as if he could instinctually recognize the name. At any rate, he couldn't rely on just his senses. Thus, Subaru picked up the book to search into what he can't rely on in himself. Subaru. Behind him, Emilia and Beatrice are holding their breaths. Shala puts her hands behind her head, watching over Subaru's decision with a carefree expression. Whilst taking a look at these 3 individuals, Subaru takes a deep breath, and he places his hand on the thick books, which looked rather like a dictionary, front cover. Subaru lets go as if he was trying to persuade himself to do it. Subaru mutters this and opens the book, his senses black out. Ever since the woman had been aware of what was around her, there had been nothing. There had been no one around. There were no men, Women, adults, children, elders, babies, no one at all. Alone in the dark, black forest, the woman was all alone. Being able to stand up and walk, being able to speak, being able to cry out in order to live. The woman was not able to do any of these things. All of these things were far away, unknown to the woman, vanished beyond oblivion. If she doesn't know how to speak, she cannot know how to mourn. If she doesn't know how to walk, she cannot know how to resist. If she doesn't know how to live, then there is no reason for her to know about dying. Therefore, the woman had no choices. The meaning of both life and death were not brought to this woman. She had been snatched away by the fangs of a beast. The beast had a horn on its forehead, and this hideous beast of slaughter was continuously engaged in ferocious slaughter. The woman did not know why this beast hadn't crushed her throat with its fangs and had instead dragged her by the nape of her clothing back to its lair. However, choices, which were not supposed to exist, were born, and the woman's fate was decided under the beast's. She did not know any words, so she didn't know how to mourn. She did not know how to walk, so she didn't know how to resist. However, as she knew the way of living, she didn't think she would die. Taking notice of what had happened, the woman had followed the murderous beasts and had become their queen, and had dominated the entire area, assailing their prey however she wanted, eating whenever she felt hungry, killing whenever she felt like it, sleeping whenever she wanted to sleep, living the way she wanted to, killing the way she wanted to, and she was raised amongst the motherhood of slaughter. In the past, she lost the memory for the reason for her existence. She had been reduced to something like nothing, something that had no need for anything like a symbol, that sort of stuff. At this rate, she believed that for better or worse, she would die alone, as one of these beasts. Stranger, this welcome is far warmer than what I thought it would be. However, I do not mean to hurt you. It was a girl in black. Covered with a blood-reeking devilishness, it was a girl in black. The woman who led the group of beasts with a mere action of her hand was deprived of everything she had by that girl in black. Blood and flesh overflowed, dying throes scorched the sky, and the smile of the girl in black began to be coated in their jets of blood. Without knowing how to do anything, the woman, once again, was in a position where she had nothing. Girl in black, I've been told to take you back with me. That's why I shall have you accompany me. The girl in black forcefully took the woman who had nothing. She took away the place where she had lived for a long time, the beasts she'd spent so long with, the place where she'd been herself. Even after all that, the woman still could not do anything. She did not know any words, so she didn't know to mourn. She did not know how to walk, so she didn't know how to resist. She lost the way of survival, so this time she may have no choice but to die. Stranger, how to mourn, how to resist, how to live, you lost all of those. No way, I couldn't care less for however many dull excuses you come up with. That made her regret of not knowing how to mourn. Stranger, mourn for my sake. Resist for my sake. Live for the sake of loving me, 3 that made her regret of not knowing how to resist. Stranger, if you're saying that you've lost everything, forgotten everything, parted with everything, then I'll just have to discipline you, won't I? That's a mother's duty after all. That made her regret of forgetting how to live, and her inability to think about how to die. More hellish than hell, more nightmarish than nightmares, more evil than evil as for that, Mother gave all sorts of discipline, not for the sake of the woman, but for the sake of herself. Mother did not lie. Mother was impartial. Mother used every possible means to be loved. Mother, however, just used distorted version of those means. She remembered words. How to mourn got peeled away. She remembered how to walk. How to resist was painted away. She remembered how to live. It was etched into her that there would be no more hope to be had of a way of dying. Girl in black, please stop being under the complete control of that person. Because, except for me, surely, no matter how many lives you get, they would end up being insufficient. Suddenly, when she had remembered the way of words, and the way of walking, and the way of living, she had met again the girl in black. The girl in black had often shown her face to the woman. Before she even noticed, she was acting in accompaniment of the girl in black much more than before. Before meeting Mother for the first time, she remembered when she was thrown into warm water. Covered with blood, mud, and dirt, the merciless girl in black had sloppily rinsed her of the irremovable dirt. Or perhaps That had been the last sense of freedom the woman had felt. Mother's intention made it clear that she wanted the woman to be aligned with the girl in black. The girl in black was abnormally strong. Her way of killing was amazing. She knew more about how to kill rather than how to live. Everything else except for that was estranged in her. Stranger. Redacted, 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 redacted is here. Well, it's better to leave it to you. A single event would shape everything else that had happened, or that's how it felt like. She was undisciplined. She wasn't strict. She was quite a handful as a companion. She couldn't take her eyes off her companion. She was not faithful to Mother, not just in how she killed, but also in how she lived. There was freedom therein. She had seen hell. She had seen nightmares. She had seen evil. For her whole life, the woman thought she would never forget the horror. While she was together with the girl in black, while she went along and helped this undisciplined girl, it felt like what was engraved in her would fade away. But the woman Elsa died. She died. She turned to ashes and died. The girl in black who never dies even when she is killed, no, towards the end that girl was Elsa. Died. She died. She turned to ashes and died. She had a spear stuck into her belly. She lost both of her arms from her shoulders, and she also saw her with a broken neck. Still Elsa did not die. She thought she would never die. Died, she died. She turned to ashes and died. She had also endured Mother's training. She had also endured the hell and the nightmares and the horror, but Elsa had died. She was going to go back being alone. She had lost her herd, she had lost Elsa. She was all alone. Died. She died. She turned to ashes and died. Killed. She was killed. She was turned to ashes and killed. Those who had turned Elsa to ashes had captured the woman and imprisoned her. Alone, inside a dark room, the woman questions the void around her. Hate, hateful, hatred. The feeling of hatred, what does it feel like? Sad, sadness, sorrow. The feeling of sorrow, what does it feel like? She doesn't know how to mourn. She doesn't know how to resist. Even for herself, she doesn't know the value of life. It was like this from the beginning, before Elsa had died, before she could recognize that the girl in black was Elsa, before meeting Mother, before beginning her training, before her herd of beasts had been destroyed by the girl in black, before she had begun to lead the herd of beasts, before her life was saved by the whim of a beast. Ever since the time she had been torn away from those who were supposed to be her real mother and father, the woman had been a defective product. The woman was set adrift, living. When she had been a beast, she had imitated the way of living of a beast. After being trained by Mother, she had done exactly what she told her to do. And even after she started to spend time together with Elsa, she had imitated the way she spoke. She had imitated her, imitated. From the beginning, this woman was that kind of creature. A humanoid creature that imitates people. She had behaved as others desired. The woman was capable of imitating others. She was a mere sham of the people she imitated. She had the form of a person but was nothing like a person. Kill the bastard. She wonders if that is what she is thinking. Pursue him. She wonders if she is thinking of that in that manner. She wants to imitate someone that knows Elsa's death. She wants to precisely know what to do in regards to Elsa's death. She wants to imitate. She wants to see what is the correct norm. What should she do? She had lost Elsa. Who should the woman imitate now? Time had passed, and still she didn't understand. Meanwhile, while keeping up her appearances on the outside, the woman is a woman who continues to exist for the desires of those in her surroundings. She wished for change. If the events change, if her situation changes, she may come to an answer. That, or Mother may want her to die, that also may be okay. She had let herself be shaped up as requested, as they desired, as if she was adrift. Then, if Mother desires it, she can also take her life, which she can't find any particular value in. Ooh. She hated it. She hated ending it right there. Ending here, she hated it. A feeling of impatience burned her heart. Her desiring soul demanded her own desires. At the very least, she wanted to know the answer. The answer to what she should do, now that Elsa had been murdered, would do. Stranger. Oh, so you came here too. Redacted, 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 redacted. At night, in the library inside the Tower of Sand, in the place where the books of the dead were, a voice came from behind her. Around there stood a familiar black-haired boy who she knew well. Her heart jumped in that instant. She noticed it herself, deep down, that she was afraid. If he were to ask why she was there, she couldn't answer questions like whose book she herself was looking for that she secretly came here. The boy, I just kinda had a book I wanted to look for. I really should have asked the others for help, though. I couldn't stand the feelings of restlessness, and the boy is saying something. With a smile and a head tilt, she hides her exalted heartbeat, pretending as always. The boy, don't stay up too late, redacted, 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 redacted. As she was told that, she left the library, slowly walking away, then quickening her pace, and in the end, running. He saw what she was doing. He knows what she was doing. He realized what she was doing. Biting her nails and furrowing her brow, the woman squatted and calmed her breathing. He didn't see, he didn't know, he didn't realize anything. But she abandoned everything and started again. The woman understood why it was that she came all the way to this place. And it was all the more reason to change everything she knew and start all over again, abandoning anything and everything. The urge controls her head. As her repressed emotions are left to grind on her molars, the woman turns around, going back through the road she just ran through. Her legs gradually relax and she eventually starts walking slowly. Finally walking so gently so as to eliminate the sound of her footsteps, she returns to the library where the books of the dead are. With his back facing her way, the black-haired boy was sitting on the ground. With how many books are scattered around the ground had he already found the book of the dead he was looking for? Already guessing that, she felt jealous. But before he notices her, she definitely has to the boy, "You're so damn shallow." Letting herself be controlled by feelings of desperation, she felt like blaming her impulsive actions. As she stops her feet, all that is before her eyes is the black hair on the back of the boy's unturned head. She was supposed to be coming back without making a sound and holding her breath. It's true that she doesn't hold a candle to Elsa, but even then, she could at least erase the sound of her footsteps. Then how did he find out? All of her thoughts become jumbled. She just came here while eliminating the sound of her footsteps, and he still saw through her with his back to her. What kind of explanation can she give now? No, even then, she should have said something. Taking her training into account, it would have been fine if she had just come here. No matter what, the woman was brought by the boy. She was also supposed to take that into consideration. With a timid smile and a head tilt, she hides her exalted heartbeat. Pretending as Al the boy, "Don't try to suck up to me, it's disgusting." Nobody would want you doing that to them. Cutting off her train of thought and shutting her up as she was pondering and going around in her thoughts. What did the black-haired boy mean? The boy, "Don't give me that composed face. Submissive little doll. Are you going to ignore that desire in the depths of your own heart?" Desire in the depths of her heart. Why did hearing him point that out weigh on her so awfully heavily? The boy, "Devote yourself to listening to your desire. If you do so, you'll see yourself a little more. And when you see yourself a little more, you'll know what you want to do. To know what she wants to do, to see herself. What she wants to do, what she desires, that is the boy. Now that's a nice face. Looks rich." When she noticed, the black-haired boy had turned around and was standing right before the woman. The boy's hand grabbed onto one of the woman's hanging braids and stared at her with horrible eyes that held a perverted pleasure. She couldn't take her eyes off of those dark pupils in front of her. The boy, "If you understand your desire and began to see who you really are, then you'll begin to act more like yourself. Your boring worries and anguish. I'll make sure to remember them." Selfishly deciding what another person wants, the boy declared so while putting the woman's hair tips to his lips. This filled her chest with a feeling of dread, however. A slight pain burned in her chest. The boy, "I'll make sure to remember them." If she understood her own desires, if she properly came to see who she really was, could the woman become more like herself, like what redacted, 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 redacted was supposed to be? The woman, "I wanted to talk about last night. I'm wondering, how seriously should I take what we talked about last night?" The sun rose, she finished her breakfast, and before they moved to the next trial in the tower, she contacted the black-haired boy. She thought about it so much she couldn't sleep. She thought, but no matter what, she couldn't come to an answer. The boy greeted the woman in the morning almost like his attitude last night never happened or something. So she had to make a special chance. She called out to him. Unable to control her restless feelings, at the very least she needed to get him to a place where no one else could hear them. Then it might be better. The boy, not here. Let's change places. That suggestion came from the boy. They changed places. As they entered the room, she wanted to question him about the meaning of his words from last night. Come to think of it, in the library last night, the boy had said something about going to talk with everybody else. The boy, sorry, redacted, 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 redacted. As those words were whispered into her ear, her light body was pushed down into the floor, falling down. She hit her back on the floor yet couldn't scream. Just as her field of vision was flickering like that, she saw the face of the boy getting on top of her. The smirk on his face was the most disgustingly fiendish thing she had ever seen. The boy, asking that directly, is against the rules. Her neck was gripped with a strong force. Her mouth was opening and closing, but the air that was so important for her body wasn't coming. Writhing, struggling. She grabbed the hand on her neck and dug her nails in. Desperately, she kicked her legs. She can't move or push him off. But if she was Elsa, she could deal with him. The boy, this time it was a loss because of breaking the rules, but I hope you'll act even bolder next time. Do your best as you always have. She didn't understand what he meant. What was he talking about? What was he saying? What was he telling her? The boy, my oh my, this is going to be very interesting, the Natsuki Subaru murder mystery. I'm being killed. The reasoning was nothing but flawed. I'm going to be killed. In the end, could I do anything at all? Killed. When I was hunting in that forest, what did I killed? Meaninglessly unable to do anything. Being killed. It was fun. Killed. It was enjoyable. Be killed. Like I was part of some childish game, being killed. Killed, 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 killed. I'll kill you. Subaru, H. In an instant, his head jumped back as if he was being flicked away. Redacted, 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 redacted fell backwards, dropping what he was holding in his hands. He saw the world go around in circles. He took a pained breath. His lungs were having panicked spasms at his labored breathing. Emilia, hey Subaru. As he was remembering the painful shock, the silver-haired girl rushed over to redacted, 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 who was screaming in pain. She was followed by a girl with light-colored hair. Both of them came and propped him up at the same time. Subaru, I am... www what just? How WH? For Beatrice, deep breaths. Take deep breaths, in fact. You don't need to force yourself to talk, I suppose. Emilia, do not touch that book under any circumstances, in fact. His eyes were going in circles and foam was sprouting from the corners of redacted, 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 redacted's mouth as the girl correction. Beatrice desperately called out to him. Beatrice called out to the silver-haired Emilia who was reaching for the book. Yes, Emilia once again nodded and retracted her hand away after all. Emilia, but Beatrice, Subaru is looking weird. This book is, Beatrice, that's exactly the reason why. It would be troublesome if Emilia were to fall into the same condition, I suppose. It's probably quite likely that he ended up diving in too deep, in fact. He is confusing how he talks, I suppose. At Beatrice's analysis, Emilia's cheeks stiffen and she gulps. Following that, she swiftly comes to redacted, 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 redacted's side and holds on to his cheek, meeting his eyes with her own pupils. Emilia, Subaru, remember. You're okay. You are Natsuki Subaru, my knight. You're clueless about the world and broke beyond compare. You get along with everybody and Emilia starts picking through her memories, hysterically bringing up everything she can. While hearing her say all of that, redacted, 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 redacted begins to. Redacted, 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 Rue begins to. Redacted, redacted, Rue begins to. Subaru begins to recall himself. Subaru, IAH, Emilia, Beatrice, I am me, right? I'm not her I am without Elsa, Air 5 Emilia, you're doing fine, stay calm. Everything is fine, slowly. Slowly, okay. Beatrice, like a splinter, slowly pull out those lodged memories, in fact. And then you'll be able to come back to the normal Subaru, I suppose. Subaru, ugh, hick. Emilia and Beatrice talk to Subaru, yes, Subaru. They talk to Subaru. While those words are reaching his ears somehow, he sorts through all he saw just now. Sorting through them, doing it somehow, down to the very end. The memories. The moment his life was extinguished. Julius, Emilia-sama, sorry I made you wait. I heard about it from Madame Ram on the way, Echidna. Is it true that you found that girl's named book? Then Julius, who was running up the stairs, arrived. Julius, Echidna, and Ram arrived and were caught up with the fact that Meili was absent. To those three people, Emilia and Beatrice started explaining the current situation. Shala was silently staring. She was staring at a book, lying at her feet, to which she was indifferent. She narrowed her black eyes. There wasn't a single hint of emotion in that stare. She was simply silent, silently staring.